Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the conversation titled Ecological Impact of Big Trees Transplanting. Today, this talk is part of the exhibition Clean Management Agency, curated by a Singapore-based curator, Zhao. My name is Sukontip Nakasem. I'm the founder of Warin Lab Contemporary, and I'm the moderator for today's conversation. In today's conversation, we will discuss the practice of moving big trees from their original location to a new destination, which could be in a city for aesthetic purpose or any urban development purpose. We will talk to the artists who research about the particular area where the tree is planted and also the impact of this practice in the location. And the two artists has responded to each other for this project. Prateep discussed about the Isan area where the tree was planted originally, and Robert responded by looking at the ecological life around the banyan tree in Singapore. So he watched this tree for 10 years, and the work today showed the result of the research that both artists have done. And today we have with us two experts in the conservationist and environmental area. The first person is Dr. Boripat Siriaroonrat. He's the president of Green World Foundation. The next is Oraya Sutabutr. She's the co-founder of Big Tree Project Foundation. Next we have with us Prateep Suthathongthai. He's the artist for today's exhibition, and Zhao from Singapore. So I would like to start this conversation with Prateep. So this because of the international group here, we're going to switch between Thai and English. So we're going to start with Prateep to tell us about your research and about your art practice of looking at the commercial side of transplanting the tree and sell it elsewhere from its original location.
การทำงานมีการทำงานในชุดนี้ของผมเนี่ยก็ถือว่าเป็นการเอาความสนใจที่มีต่อต้นไม้ใหญ่ซึ่งเป็นประเด็นที่ผมเคยติดตามโปรเจกต์ของโลกที่เขาแต่ต้นไม้ใหญ่จริงของที่ปีก่อนพอจะต้องได้มาแสดงการร่วมกันเนี่ยผมก็เลยหยิบเอาความสนใจที่ตัวเองชอบมองต้นไม้ตามทุ่งนาตามข้างถนนที่จะต้องถูกตัดทุกครั้งเป็นจำนวนเยอะมากเมื่อมีการขยายถนนแล้วก็การเปลี่ยนแปลงในหลายอย่างก็เลยคิดว่าต้นไม้ในภาคอีสานเนี่ยเป็นสิ่งที่น่าจะเป็นประเด็นที่จะเป็นสิ่งที่จะต้องรีเสิร์ชเพื่อที่จะทำงานในนิสดานี้ผมต้องหยุดที่ความแปลนะครับ
So he looked at the trees in Isan and wanted to explore the possibility of having it in the exhibition to talk about the practice of moving the trees for commercial purpose.
ก็ประเด็นที่ผมสนใจคือทุกครั้งที่มีการขยายถนนแล้วจะมีการเคลื่อนย้ายต้นไม้เนี่ยใครจะมีส่วนเกี่ยวข้องบ้างมันถูกตัดที่เฉยๆหรือมีการมาประมูลออกไปหรือใครที่สามารถจะเอาต้นไม้ออกจากบริเวณที่ต้องตัดถนนออกโดยที่ไม่ได้เป็นการตัดทิ้งก็เลยทำให้ได้ไปสืบค้นแล้วก็โชคดีที่ได้เจอคนหนึ่งคือคุณสุภชัยที่มีอาชีพเป็นคนหาต้นไม้ตามทุ่งนาเดินตระเวนไปในเขตชนบทเพื่อไปดูแล้วก็เจรจาซื้อต้นไม้ไว้แล้วก็ทยอยมาล้อมเพื่อเอาไปเข้าสวนก่อนที่มันจะขยับไปยังตลาดที่ใหญ่ขึ้นจนเป็นระบบใหญ่ในการค้าต้นไม้ภาคอีสาน
So he looked at this idea of urban development that the road need to be expanded, so a lot of trees are affected. So he wanted to look at where the tree will go. We will go to individual places, will be gone completely. And he also ran into a person who has a business of identifying big trees and sell to other people. So he had followed this person to look at how this practice has worked.
งานของผมเกิดจากการที่ผมตามคุณสุภชัยไปตามบริเวณที่เขาได้ขุดต้นไม้ล้อมไว้แล้วบางต้นรอไว้เป็นปีแล้วบางต้นเพิ่งล้อมไว้ก็ด้วยเหตุผลถึงเรื่องการจัดการเหมือนกับการเตรียมต้นไม้ที่จะต้องถูกขุดออกบางต้นขุดออกเลยอาจจะเสี่ยงที่จะตายกับอีกเหตุผลหนึ่งก็คือ แกก็ซื้อต้นไม้ไปเยอะมากเป็น100 ต้นก็ทำบัญชีไว้ก็ซื้อขายกันแล้ว แต่ว่าการขุดมันเก็บไว้ในที่ดีในสวนเนี่ยมันต้องใช้พื้นที่เยอะฉะนั้นก็เลยต้องไปทำการขุดทิ้งไว้ผมก็ตามไปหลายที่ก็เลยกลายเป็นพื้นที่ที่ตามไปถ่ายภาพ
So in this exhibition, you see the pictures from his research by following this person, Kun Supachai, who identified hundreds of trees. And some of the tree before it's been transplanted, it has to go through a process of digging the root so that the root sort of understand the trauma that will come. So you see the picture of the process. And Kun Supachai also let you go to the site itself.
มีการลงพื้นที่ก็ทำให้เห็นถึงความเปลี่ยนแปลงของพื้นที่ต้นไม้ใหญ่ในภาคอีสานที่เกี่ยวข้องกับประเด็นทางกฎหมายด้วยที่มีการปลดล็อกให้ต้นไม้ในที่มีกำลังเสพสามารถถูกตัดได้ก่อนหน้านี้ต้นไม้หลายชนิดถ้าตัดแต่ว่ากฎหมายเรื่องปลดล็อกเนี่ยทำให้ต้นไม้ใหญ่หายไปเยอะและหายไปเร็วมากครับแล้วก็ส่วนหนึ่งที่ชาวบ้านเริ่มมองว่าต้นไม้เป็นทรัพย์สินที่มีราคาฟอร์มรูปทรงขนาดถูกมองเป็นมูลค่าก็ทำให้เกิดการซื้อขายและเคลื่อนย้ายเป็นจำนวนมาก
By by going with Kun Supachai, he also realized the legal side of the whole situation that now Thailand has let people cut the big trees in their land. So people who own the land start to look at trees as asset. Look at the form, look at the shape, look at the height, look at the whole aesthetic of the tree as an asset. So with this new law.A lot of trees has gone because people start to sell them for commercial purpose. So when Prateep have this idea, he talked to Robert, and Robert has been working on a project that relate human and nature for all his art practice. And I would like to ask Robert, when you start talking to Prateep, what come up with the idea to have this new series in response to Prateep's
work?Okay, so I'm just going to talk a bit about the works that are here and how the composition came along. Actually, this is the short video, which is the videos that are at the front of the banyan tree. A banyan tree is those the big tree with a lot of aerial roots coming down. And so this is actually from 10 years ago, 2014. So actually, I've been with the work, but I kind of didn't know what to do because when this happened, when I was here looking at the tree being brought down, it was kind of I was actually trying to do a project. This is the substation in Singapore. It's in the heart of the city, and it's actually this tree is huge, and it was there for quite a long time.And it also belongs to an arts institution called the Substation. And I was invited by the institution to do something about for their 10th anniversary. And no, not their 10th, but one of their anniversaries. And it just so happened that they will bring down this tree to kind of move the tree away because they're going to build a new university on site. Of course, I think they didn't reach the conclusion to move the tree somewhere else. I think the initial plan was to kind of just...remove the tree, but there was protest because it's a huge tree. Everyone knows the tree because it's so big and it's a beautiful tree. And so they reached a kind of agreement to temporarily move the tree out and then move the tree back again somewhere around. Okay, and this is a huge tree. So the video, I don't know if it will reach there, but it will show you how eventually this giant banyan tree becomes like a little tree trunk. They try to identify which is the mother root, right? And then they bring it down. They found two, and they move it up. And then it went out to a like a farm nursery, and then it stayed there. So when I was looking at this, actually, it was a very diplomatic experience because you really see it took 3 days or 2 or 3 days to bring the whole tree down because it's so big. And I remember there was bats flying out, and branches came down. And before that, before I knew that they were going to cut down, actually, you can see, actually, I was inside the tree for a while, and I didn't know what I was doing as an artist. I was just exploring the space. But I had some cameras inside, and I realized actually it's like a little forest inside. Actually, a lot of animals like water hen, a lot of kind of local birds, they actually are always around the tree for the 2 weeks that I was inside before the tree came down. So I actually,
Sorry, these are the birds that
yeah,
photograph.
yeah. So I had cameras and I had videos of these birds, but I kind of knew there was 19 of them, but I didn't do anything with the information because at that point of time I was just still very amazed that they could take the whole tree away and still keep it alive. And so my work for 10 years ago was about how the tree was removed and then and how we kind of remove trees in the city. And it was not until the tree eventually went back to the university along like a nice green path. And but the tree, it has become something else. It is like a nice tree, and pruned, and it's no longer majestic, and we've got roots coming down. And then you realize the stark difference that the tree before had so much life, and the energy that you go around through is different. And now, although we saved it, although we moved it successfully, and we obtained the goal to not kill the tree, but I guess at that point of time, I knew something was strange and different, although the tree was alive, but I guess I didn't kind of immediately thought about there was a certain kind of life form that was kind of revolving around the life of the tree that was connected with it. That when we kind of want to save the tree, I think we kind of cannot afford to think of all the little lives that kind of revolve around the tree. So I think it was when Prateep was telling me about how the tree was being moved here, and then I realized actually there was this kind of lifelessness when they are kind of situated in a new space, and the life that the tree has with its environments and all the animals is kind of lacking in the context. So that's when I decided that actually I was looking at animals back then, and I could kind of talk about how these were the animals that I saw in that tree for the short 2 weeks. I want to talk about kind of transplanting trees. So yeah, that's what the book is about.
So when looking at the pictures, we all know walnut tree, which is huge and has a lot of branches and roots, and animal, birds live in the tree. So that link the conversation to Kun Oraya. Kun Oraya is a co-founder of Big Tree Project, and I'm sure when you founded this foundation, you find some unsettling issues in our country about how the trees has been managed, also by the government and also by general public. So I think today is a good opportunity to hear, as a general public, we should be aware of what sort of issues, and is there anything that you would like to share as an experience in this field?
Thank you for inviting me and joining this panel. Well, as from the name of our foundation, our task or our mission is to try to save trees, especially in the city, urban trees. It's okay to have tree planting projects, but I think the important thing is to try and preserve the existing big trees, because it takes a long time for a tree to grow, that big, or the size that Prateep and Robert were talking about. And especially when trees are, home to so many different animals, insects, and of course we rely on oxygen or the shade, and of course our livelihood, our psychological condition also depend on how many trees we have. So our livelihood depends on whether or not we still have enough big trees in the city. And then so the main how can I say, we come across this question all the time. We need to build a new building, we need new roads, why are you so idealistic about keeping the trees, right? But in reality, it's not just a dream that you can have both the conveniences, buildings, the roads, and also have the green spaces and the trees along with the urban facilities. So my answer to this kind of situation is you need to talk to tree care professionals who are called arborists, arboriculture. So in Thai, it's Rukkakor. And we only started talking about this profession or this word maybe only in the last 20, 30 years. And these people and our organization try to promote this profession and also this idea that if you manage trees with knowledge, with technology, and also with, sort of have the middle path between having the conveniences of a city and also have a healthy urban environment. From our standpoint, it's possible to have both, even though you might not be able to keep all the trees, in one site. At least, like in Singapore, it's a very good example where, at least from my knowledge, when you want to develop a plan in Singapore, and especially when the government is involved, I've learned and I've been told by my friends in Singapore who work in the tree care industry, that they would have everyone come together from the beginning, engineer, owners, arborists, ecologists, architects, and then try to work around the existing trees, so that when you introduce a building or a road or any kind of development, you pay special attention and special care to the existing grown trees. And when the development is done, most of the time they bring in the trees afterwards, right? They cut down the trees, and then when the buildings are done, then they bring in the trees, and it's the time to sell these trees. But this kind of practice, I find, it's not sustainable, because when you want to uproot, like pull up trees' roots and try to move them. I always like to compare this kind of practice to moving your very elderly relative, around all over the place. Like you have this, grandma or grandpa who's very old, very frail, and suddenly you want to move him or her, all over the place and to take environments where they are not used to. So it's like, they go into a shop, and like this photograph back there, even though they haven't been moved yet, these trees, but when you cut the roots, and then just leaving them there without anyone monitoring or making sure that they stay alive, being properly cared for, most of the time they die. Because it's like, you get your arms and legs, and maybe you get no food, no water. So it's not a surprise that the trees will die. In fact, I have some photos. The first few photos are not very positive yet. I will talk about something more cheerful in the last. So this one I took from the Facebook from the Setsang University's Arborist Club, and they are Setsang University students who want to become tree care professionals. So first they would join this club at the university, learn all about urban tree care. But this is from their post about why it's so difficult to maintain a transplanted tree. If you look at, anyone can see that this tree is not doing very well, right? It has very short branches and very few leaves. And this is when you transplant a tree, especially a very old, very big tree, from one place to another, and without the knowledge of how to transplant a tree properly and also how to care for afterwards. In fact, I would say the more difficult part in transplanting trees is to care for them after the transplant. Usually, it might stay alive for a year or less than that, and then after a while die if you don't have anyone who knows exactly how to take care of transplanted trees. So this photo just shows that at the end of the day, this transplanted tree died because it lacks, all the different parts of the trees to keep them alive. So can I have the next one? So can you recognize this photo where this place is, or at least people from Bangkok or Thailand? ฐสภานะคะ our new parliament, and I'm showing this photo because these are all transplanted trees, and because I work closely with arboriculture professionals, we know that most of these trees at Parliament House have died, and it's probably second or third generation already that you might see today, and that's because they have, I don't know who made this decision to, like go around looking for very big, very old trees from all over the country and plant trees from different parts of the country but in the same place with the same, amount of sun and water and the same kind of maintenance. And then, it doesn't take, it's not rocket science to realize that the tree from the north and the tree from the northeast or the south, they don't, require the same amount of sun and light and water. But then they're planted in the same place, and of course with a lack of professionals to take care of them. So this is how they were probably putting in new trees because the previous ones have died, and it's very expensive.
They keep buying new tree.
Yes. So I think it's probably third generation already of trees that have been transplanted and then removed because they died, replant. Then it's probably maybe I would say 100,000 baht per tree, the whole operation. And I heard, somebody from I would say who, but somebody said very proudly that because he or she was involved with the whole operation, that some of the trees were moved by the river, by Oraya river. Like they would then, take a tree from maybe Sukontip, bring it along the river in a big barge, and then take it up the pier at, next to Parliament House, and then have a whole conveyor belt up inside car to move the tree from boat to the site. So they did all that, and then the tree died. So it's not just ecologically unsustainable, but it's also very expensive, and just a waste of effort and
It's
funds.
tax money.
Okay, can I have the next one, please? Yeah, so this is my suggestion. It's not my own, but this is a practice that is now starting to become more common, and which is the idea of having a tree farm. And this is from various Facebook, like I know this company called Oraya, which is the name of a tree. They actually run a tree farm. And I think this is a solution and an alternative to uprooting a tree and plant it somewhere, which is, they would pick certain species of trees that developers or owners are likely to want to plant in their development projects, and then grow them from like saplings or seeds. And then when they get up to a certain height, I would say maybe it should be about 2 meters high. It shouldn't be that way because when it's this size, right? Like you can see from the photo, it's much easier to move the trees around, and it's always more sensible to move a young tree as opposed to a very old tree from the fields or in the forest. So I think we don't have to, sort of say nothing works, so let's not plant anything. I think this is the way to go for the future. And also going back to design and collaboration with a development project. This is for a project where you have maybe no trees at all, right, on the site. You want to buy new ones. But if you have a piece of land and there are already existing trees at the site, it's very much possible to keep the existing trees there where they are, but then design the landscape and the buildings, the construction, and also a very important thing is management during construction. There's a whole field called tree management during construction, and this is actually something in Singapore they're very good at. Of course, if anyone is willing to invest in hiring a tree care professional or a tree transplanting professional, it can be done. So from my perspective, from our foundation's perspective, I think one of the last things you want to do when you develop a piece of land is to move the tree out from the land, or move a huge tree from outside to your land. And try to see if the existing trees are in a good condition and in a location where it's possible to design and the trees location and size, that the two things can meet, as opposed to moving trees around. Like in the example you gave, not a very good solution either. I mean, when you want the tree there anyway, right? So why pull it out and bring it back? Because it's never going to look the same, right? You cannot tell these birds, these animals, please come back when the tree returns, right? So better to look at how to manage the design and existing green space trees, and then at the end you have a very good, a very beautiful and something other organizations or other projects learn from. I can say one last thing about a good example is one of the newest parks in Bangkok, which is Benjapiti Park, which sits on the side where it used to be the tobacco factory or the Thai tobacco monopoly. And I know that the architects and the landscape architects really went out of their way to design the new park, the paths and any construction that they were going to introduce to the park around the existing trees, so that so you did not have any incidents where they were moving things around. They might have planted and removed some and planted quite a few new ones, but I know for a fact that they really worked hard on preserving the existing trees and then making sure that the newly introduced structures, not interfere with existing trees so much.
So from what you say, there's also a solution, there's also some inspiring fact and knowledge that if we learn more, then we can make a better decision as a consumer and also as a taxpayer. So we can also voice our concern now that we know more about how to manage the tree. So when you talk about Benjapiti, I realize they also incorporate what Bangkok needs, because Bangkok flood all the time. So of course they have wetland, they also have higher land, so that when the dog water comes, it has a place to go. So I think that is something in the future that more people could study more about this, and also more profession that also manage the coexist of us as human and also with nature around us. Talking about nature around us, I would like to ask Dr. Boripat from the zoologist point of view. When we as humans start to intervene with nature, it's not just a tree, but it's also other living species around the tree. Can you share with us some insight about this?
Thank you so much, Good Phone, and it's great to see Robert's and Good Prateep's work and stories about the fate of some unfortunately big trees that has been selected by some humans. And I want these things, and then their fate changed. Instead of living there for another century, they've been forced. They've been removed, and they're expected to provide a beautiful shade, but not for the nation or but for some particular people. There's nothing wrong with that. I think we always have different values and views on the values of our person. Whether they're plants, animals, microbes, they live with us. I think the word in the topic there is Anthropocene, and what before this, the word intervention. I think these are some key words for today for me. I came here, I humbly accepted this invitation, not preparing anything. I would allow myself to listen to the story, look at the articles and comments, and then I would maybe share my very small, unvaluable comment. We all have comments, we all have ideas and questions, but what touches me of this story is that there's a word, Anthropocene extinction. Because of us, human race, population growth, we celebrated 8 billion people recently, and we are projecting to 10 billion people on the planet. the planet is not expanding, it's about the same time. Where we're going to put these 2 billion more people where we're going to find food to feed them. We treat biodiversity around us very differently, mostly with utilitarianism. What can I do? What can I earn? What can I use these resources for? Whether they're animals, whether they're plants or trees, microbes. But these two gentlemen see things differently. They see the moral value. They see the ecological value. They see the aesthetic value of trees. Prateep put the statement that how can you put the price on beauties and shapes and forms of a tree? This is humans' arrogance. This is humans' greed. And we trade anything around us, we can buy that with money. And I want this tree, it has to come to my house. These are kind of things. I'm not judging people who make a living with these particular ways of life. Of course, when there's demand, there's always supply. People talk about the role of one particular tree, one young tree in Singapore. That particular tree in Isan. One big tree, random tree, right? Of course, it's a home for a lot of things. It's a home for a bird, insects, squirrels, ants, and whatnot. Is that not enough values for a tree to stand there? Maybe people see, oh, there's so many fallen leaves, cause me trouble, man. I don't want this tree because it's causing me trouble. I don't want to sweep the fallen leaves every day. People see things differently from one particular tree. And it's a little bit sad that I was very great today after seeing and listening to this story. Because many of us has been doing this, not even asking ourselves why I'm doing this. I work as a researcher at Oraya University, Oraya campus. All the trees that are planted around the campus, transplanted. With particular frame of woods, try to support them. It's already been like a decade. The frame is still there because the trees still cannot stand by themselves. What do we expect them anyway after cutting their arms and legs and hurt them so much? We remove them from the selected landscape to the wholly new place. I would be there to know that these things. Of course, we know at certain level, we should respect those forest professionals. Of course, they're taking care of trees. Arrogance killing them. I think simply because we don't even respect that different tree species have different resilience. Some species may be recovering well, some species may be not. So I think that we need to ask ourselves. But on the plus side, I think many of us, all of us, we have seen either on news or social media with people who respect big trees, even developers. We have seen pictures or video clips of an expressway or highway that walk around existing big trees. We see the construction that allows the big tree to survive, and they kind of modify the design just to allow that tree to be there. I mean, these are the people who respect nature, see the values of non-utilitarianism of the tree. We maybe respect beauty, maybe it's morally wrong to remove the trees temporarily after the building is finished, bring it back. So we have both examples of tragedy and examples of hope. How can we actually bring our kids of this generation to appreciate? People cannot wait. They are so impatient. They cannot wait to grow some small tree, to tell the story that I planted this tree that was this age, and then watch them grow for generations. We just have to. I want it tomorrow, I want it next month, because of great impatience. We just need to rethink our relationship with our community. Last statement I'd like to share about my spontaneous reactions here is that I've been traveling in many landscapes, especially when you talk about this side. We know that tree is first, sometimes by itself, but a lot of times by animals, that disperse the seed. When the bird poops the seed landed on the ground, many of them died. Some of them found optimal home condition and they started growing. So it's been selected that these trees belong to that particular place. And they should not belong anywhere else. How are we not going to let that nature become nature? Why do we have to intervene every time? For the people who demand, people who do it for them, people who don't care about that. So I think we might need to mend our broken relationship with trees.
What you say, I remember reading a book, and it says that human sapiens, since we start to arrive in this world, we become a serial killer. We wipe out 99% of species that exist before us, only because we arrive and we want it our way. So that is the word Anthropocene, right? That this is now the world of human saying, I want this and I want it done my way. I don't have 100 years to wait for the tree to grow, so I will buy my money to have that 100 years of tree in my courtyard. So this is very grim, and as the city always develops. So what we do is we cut out the trees from the forest. We build our concrete jungle, and then we plant a tree, and we wanted to bring forest back into our concrete jungle. So how do we go about it? Is there any solution, any advice? I know Kun Oraya talked a little bit about the solution of getting to know more about how to care for trees and design, so that nature is also in your perception while you're trying to live in this world, to coexist with the nature. So can we start with Robert? Would you share the idea of what sort of solution or what sort of perception we should change as general public, as consumer, because we always have choice. As Dr. Boripat said, if there's no demand, the practice will not exist.
Actually, I agree very much with what Dr. Boripat said, that we need to have a shift in our considerations with other species that we share the planet with. And as an artist, I really can't, I think my art doesn't really offer any solutions. Really, it just kind of poses a perspective or questions. But me, I personally feel that we have become really so disconnected with the environment, and I think Dr. Boripat said so much. When we walk through the landscape, we cannot understand and sense the way that nature is, like how the tree already is selected to be there, it is predestined to be there, and the life is supposed to be there. And if we don't consider the life of others as it is a life worth living, I feel. So these are the kind of, I think, as I think with our art, we try to kind of land a space for the a contemplation or space for you to start to consider how maybe we are or really extremely disconnected. Because I think a lot of times when a tree falls, when I'm moving big trees, or all the animals are doing their thing, actually it is so hard to really try to understand what's really happening in nature. I think I always need my friend Ding Li to help me tell me to understand his scientists to see what's happening here, or I need some kind of a nature documentary narration. You know, I think today we watch a lot of documentary, but if we were to mute the voiceover, chances are we don't really know what's happening on the screen. We can't tell, and even the narrator telling the story is also a kind of a story that's kind of really one-sided or from science, you know. But there may be many things that may be happening. So I feel that as an artist, I can only kind of create spaces and encounters with the things I observe in the field. Yeah.
The work of Robert really emotional when we look at the work, and that has always been his art practice. That he looked at the relationship between man and nature, and he took some time to research about them. And the way he showed it showed you another side that you would never see yourself. Like this species that live in that big banyan tree, you would never see that. Realize that big tree in the middle of Singapore urban development could house 19 different species. It could be local, it could be regional species. So Robert's work communicate what general public will not see it because of the artist's research, and he digested it in the way that we can relate to assist aesthetic point of view, so that we can relate to the issue that very hardcore and sometimes we not really look at it closely. Prateep, would you like to share any thought on this of how, as general public, we could be aware or we could be try to make better of how we do things today?
คือจริงๆผมคิดว่าประเด็นเนี้ยคนในสังคมทั่วไปผมคิดว่าเป็นประเด็นที่น่าจะเข้าใจคล้ายๆกันแต่ว่าพอผมไปลงพื้นที่แล้วเห็นหลายๆสถานการณ์อย่างเคสหนึ่งผมไปดูต้นไม้ใหญ่ที่กำลังขุดล้อมอยู่เป็นต้นกันเก่าอายุได้ประมาณ200 ปี ซึ่งตอนที่ไปถึงเนี่ยมันถูกตัดให้อยู่ในทรงที่เคลื่อนย้ายได้หมายความว่ามันขุดไปแล้วมันยอดตรงนี้มันเป็นพุ่มเป็นนะครับก็ได้ข้อมูลมาว่ามีเศรษฐีมาซื้อต้นนั้นเพื่อที่จะไปเอาไว้วัดป่าคือต้นไม้ใหญ่ตอนนี้เนี่ยถ้าอยากจะรักษาจะต้องถูกขุดล้อมโดยทุนของคนที่อยากทำบุญหนักๆเอาไปไว้ตามอีกปีนึงถึงจะเอาออกมันก็เป็นสิ่งที่คือสะท้อนอะไรหลายๆอย่างแล้วก็เพราะว่าต้นไม้มันก็กลายเป็นสิ่งท้ายอย่างหนึ่งไปแล้วครับเพราะว่าอย่างต้นไม้อีสานที่มีราคาเพราะว่าเขาโตในสภาพภูมิอากาศที่น้ำท่วม3-4 เดือนแล้ง3-4 เดือนฉะนั้นไอ้ฟองที่มันหงิกงอพวกนี้มันเป็นของที่มันเองมากๆมีราคาฉะนั้นการปลูกต้นไม้ฟาร์มเนี่ยสร้างราคาไม่ได้เท่าต้นไม้ที่ตัดขึ้นมามันยังไงมันก็เลยยังเป็นของที่สำหรับคนที่ว่าอยากจะครอบครองของแปลกแล้วเสริมสร้างบารมีทำให้บ้านเพลงดูดีเนี่ยฉะนั้นไอ้ความคิดแบบนี้มันก็ยังอยู่สำหรับคนที่จะใช้เงินในการซื้อแล้วก็เสกพื้นที่พวกนี้ขึ้นมาได้แล้วก็อีกเรื่องหนึ่งคือผมพบว่าป่าชุ่มน้ำและป่าทามครับได้รับการออกโฉนดรับการออกโฉนดให้ครอบคลุมพื้นที่แล้วก็แต่ป่าทามปัญหาคือน้ำจะท่วมดังนั้นน้ำท่วมเนี่ยก็ทำให้การปลูกข้าวไว้ไม่ค่อยได้ผลดังนั้นในขณะที่ป่าทามเองมีความหมายในชีวภาพและพันธุ์พืชแต่ออกโฉนดนั้นเนี่ยชาวบ้านก็จะต้องใช้ประโยชน์ทั้งที่รู้ว่าปลูกข้าวได้ไม่ดีแต่ก็ต้องตัดทำลายแล้วก็มีเคสที่แบบปลูกข้าวแล้วรู้อยู่แล้วว่าจะไม่สำเร็จแต่เอาไปเคลมเอาเงินที่รับช่วยเวลาน้ำท่วมมันก็กลายเป็นสิ่งที่ทำให้พื้นที่เสียหายไปเยอะน้อยลงมากเพราะเป็นหลายเรื่องที่มันเชื่อมต่อกันที่ผมเจอ
So to translate, Prateep talked about interconnected issues. He mentioned that one incident that he visited the land and there's a tree that already been trimmed, and the owner of the tree said that this one was about to be, well, it was booked to be purchased by a person who wanted to give the tree to a temple. So that also linked back to also the perception and the attitude of the person who see trees as commodity, who see trees as something that they could do whatever with. And also another issue that he talked about is with the new government law, people now have to convert their land to be some sort of activity-based land, not just a wild growth. And with that, even though they won't produce the rice, but people still have to manage to try to grow the rice in that land, just so that they are by with the law. So there's some issue that also the government have to look at, and also as a consumer that we should be aware of things that we ask for to live in a nice place as well. I want to ask Dr. Boripat, is there any last word that you want to say? Bright solution.
Hope is the only way to keep going, and I am not hopeless. Of course, we can get positive energy from the nature or from our inspiring figure. In my career working in wildlife conservation, I met one of the mothership of both named Renhui. You probably heard about her. She studied chimpanzees in the National Park for 40-50 years. And I've spoken with Jen, and she said, at the end, all about mentoring kids to So she established the roots and shoots program. Roots and shoots, something that we watch them grow. We watch them go deeply into the soil. We watch the trees and the branches and the leaves grow. I think it boils down to how we reconnect the young generation back to nature. As a parent, how can you not to be protected, not allowing your kids to walk on dirt? Dirt doesn't equal dirt. Dirt doesn't equal illness. We are so disconnected. Our small foundation, or the Green Growth Foundation, we are really embracing environmental education. We try to encourage parents and kids and students to get outdoor. Not all the time staying in the air conditioned 25 degrees or below environment, causing climate change. We try to encourage them to go out since the toddlers, so they get exposed to nature. They're not afraid to walk barefooted. Let them see the butterflies and bugs and climb the trees and fall, just like little animals, baby. So they can be stronger, they can be fit in that environment. When they go out, we teach them art, we take them swimming, and we teach them how to find food like fishing, teach them bird watching, take them to nature. So nature is not a strange thing. Nature is not just luxury vacation. It is everyday thing. So they appreciate what ecological service, fresh air, drinking water, beauty, songs on this earth. So the world is not too much. So I think there's still hope. I have worked with Natural History Museum. I worked at the zoo for 12 years. I worked with the environmental education company, teaching kids in the camps, bring them scuba diving, bring them to swim in the ocean, to see little nemos and corals. They will never forget. They will grow up to be the CEO of the company, they can be medical doctors. But what they saw during their childhood will always be there. So I think that's the message.
Thank you. So we don't stop learning, we don't stop educating ourselves, even though we are adults. There's a lot of things about nature that sometimes we neglect. When it's not on our iPhone feed, sometimes we don't know about it because when we look at certain things, the AI doesn't allow us to know more. So the world getting, actually, our knowledge getting less and less because of the technology. So I think it's something that we should bear in mind that sometimes we should go against what AI suggests for us to read, and sometimes we don't go out of the way to understand more about nature and educate ourselves. So I would like to take this time to receive the question.
And also, I have any ideas after hearing the other three speakers. In fact, just yesterday, I thought, yes, there's still hope after all. In fact, our organization tried to work with the private sector, like the developers, people who were usually blamed for destroying the natural environment. And so I was talking to a developer yesterday, and this project they want to evolve uproot. But what gave me hope is that the owner of this company is in his 70s, and he said that he is actually a member of the Thai National Park Association. And he said he just donated some funds to a national park in Nan province so that they can work on a reclaimed piece of land which is next to that national park, so that the national park boundary can expand, and then they can bring back the trees and hopefully try to restore that piece of land to later on become maybe a young but healthier forest that was deforested years ago. So I think we cannot live in a world that's completely separate from the commercial, because at the end of the day they're out there, so instead of keeping them out, I think we need to work with them and hopefully sort of educate them, or try to suggest to them that there are other ways of going about their business. So like I said earlier, if we can convince more and more developers that there's a way, there are many different ways to work with existing trees, existing three phases, and also have your new projects, and also with people who with funds like this developer, we try to suggest something else, like instead of donating a tree to a temple, why not start this conservation program where you preserve the trees in the temples? I mean, there are many different forest temples, or not even forest temples, but even temples in Bangkok have a lot of old heritage trees. So we're about to start a heritage tree program with another major developer and also investor to try and identify where these old trees are in some of the major temples around the country, and then look at how to keep the trees healthy, keep it in the original temples, and then sort of make it known, better known among the public that a way to do something worthwhile for a temple, or to do like good deeds, right? As Buddhists, is not to take a tree right from a forest or a rice field and take it to a temple, but instead preserving the existing trees within that temple. So I think if we are successful in this campaign, we can expand it, and so hopefully it will be a new way of doing good deeds, and at the same time, being proud of what you can do for the temple that you respect or you go to normally. And also the other thing, our foundation also does the same thing as Renhui Foundation, which is to take young people, children, on nature trips, nature activities. And I think we complement each other very well, because we will, if you go to forest, right? It's maybe a few days of camping, right? Spending time in forests all over the country. For us, we try to take children to urban green spaces, like Boripat Park, for example. It's like a day or like half a day of walking, climbing trees, because we don't want kids to climb and fall down. we use safety equipment, for children to climb up trees. Like, it's the same equipment as in rock climbing. So it's the same idea as Autumn. If we want to have any hope for the future, we don't really know what's going to happen in the future, and we might not live to see what these children will accomplish or will grow up to be in the future. But I think we can focus on now, this very moment where you can still make a difference, right? So we try as much as we can to pass on this thinking to the children, to make them see nature in a different perspective. Hopefully not like this rich guy who wants to, take a tree and give it to a temple, but hopefully these kids that come to our communities, right, will see differently and becoming connected again to nature. And who knows, even when after we are gone from this earth, maybe things will turn around, and with this reintroduced connection to nature, maybe there is still hope. Even though we don't know if it happened, but if we try to encourage ourselves, right, but what everyone's doing right now, I think, that can keep us going instead of just abandoning everything, just turn back on the work. Right? Hopefully, that sounds a little bit more positive than from the beginning of this talk.
Thank you for the positive ending. I would like to also take a question if anyone in the audience or in the live. Is there any question? In the audience, please.
We have to take everything first. Then ask other people. I assume this we are now every divine is not only for it's also dangerous. When we move it the wrong way, we move the species from the side to also move the origin of the other species. Then, how many areas in Thailand are equated by invasive species? And this study that was for another habitat. I think this is a very interesting question. We're talking in the context of endemic trees, but I think you bring up a very good point of alien invasives that now has been introduced into the country and finally came over, actually overpowering and overgrown native trees and taking over the landscape. We have many, many examples. Prateep, eucalyptus, and all these things. Of course, this has to be managed because it's caused by human interaction. Someone would have to be responsible to take them out before it's too late. We have seen Mayara, we have seen a lot of things, Makochwa, organization that has been with us for a century now. I mean, we have to do something, otherwise we will lose the native diversity of plants. And we don't even know what we're losing because maybe sometimes it's ignorance, sometimes it's very difficult to get rid of them when they already occupy the landscape. The root is very deeply rooted, and they're thorny, so they actually know how to defend themselves. So I think this is a very good point. We have to manage the dangerous plant or alien invasive.
Any more questions?
First of all, thank you so much for this session because I have never heard anyone talk about this this manner before. So for me, growing up in a working class environment, I hear the term "my law" all the time growing up, and I never really paid attention to what it really means. So now I know that it's moving a live tree from their national habitat and then it's just my backyard. So it's an conversation. So my question is support actually because now everybody knows that we're trying to turn this country into a city, but and when we imagine the street of Singapore, we see like big trees everywhere. So I just wonder if there's any kind of preservation and restoration where those trees are from. Because Singapore is a small country, so I'm imagining they're probably imported from Malaysia or some other rural areas in Singapore, like the developed part. And is there any kind of different attitude towards this? Because I think Singapore, I think the education in terms of this must be their priority. And that would be my question. That's for everyone, not just for Robert, but for you.
That's a very complex question because Singapore is indeed a garden city. Those who have been there, you will notice a lot of big trees, and I think every tree is accounted for in Singapore. You have a website, and you can click the address of the tree, and that's not natural, I think. To know which tree by the number, and you can see the species, and this goes back to the invasive and introduced species. I think Singapore is a strange place because we have a lot of African and South American trees everywhere, and this exchange has been going on since the British came in the botanical gardens. And today, a lot of forests that are secondary forests are all full of introduced and invasive species. But this doesn't mean that there's no life inside. There's a different kind of life that emerged from all this chaos and past in history. So that's that. And the big trees that we see mostly when we visit Singapore on the roadside, and some of them are really old because they've been planted by the British and they're beautiful. So I was in a talk like this with an arborist and there were audience asking, oh, you know, there's a beautiful South American tree, Angsana, and they're going to cut it down for development. But the whole street, there's probably 30 of them right down the street. And they feel so sad, you know, because they're going to cut down the big Angsana tree. And I got the most amazing answer from the herborist about how you should feel for that tree. Because she said, that Angsana tree is just like the one next to it, and the one next to it, and the 30 down the road. And they carry very little life. And that made me realize that the way that we treat trees in Singapore, it's a bit like a plantation. You know, it's because it's just one after another for a very different reason, which is to greenify the city for our sake. And in fact, if animals get too comfortable in these trees, it's a problem because it's in a city with a lot of people. And in Singapore, we're always having a kind of to compromise the space with animals. Being a very green city means a lot of animals and insects and birds come and stay very near you. And there's always stories about how all the problems or stories or situations that emerge when animals do animal things, you know, just really very near you. So, and we have different kinds of management, green corridors, really green spaces, secondary corridors. So but I think the consistent thing is that it's always very near a lot of people. Like there will be a huge, small 2 hectares of secondary forest living beside 20,000 people, and it's just like just beside, and you can eat in a fine dining restaurant, and next you're in a forest with seabird cats and things like that, and they exist in a very strange balance in Singapore. So yeah, that's all I can explain. I'm sure that there's also the primary forest that's really small, that's in the center. We also have a lot of large mammals that, you know, kind of share the space, and it's really challenging because we are still trying to increase our population at the same time. So more and more stories of conflict or encounters between large mammals and people is always in the news. Yeah. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I have just a bit more information on Singapore tree management, because like I said, we have our friends working in Singapore, and well, if anything at all, they definitely invest a lot more funds into the tree management than I think most countries in the world. Like I've seen rain trees in Singapore that have been very carefully transplanted, just a few hundred meters away, so that they will have an open space. What is that? What's it with the 8 rain trees? It's like a Victoria monument or something like that. Yeah, it's like, you know, an old part of Singapore, and they wanted to have an open space in front of the monument, so they moved about 8 rain trees just to the side. You can look up, you know, trees transplant on YouTube, Singapore, and this thing will come up. When they move these trees, it's almost like you move broccoli. They move trees without pruning any of the branches and leaves at all. So it's like you're moving a whole tree from this one place to another. But of course, it costed like a whole lot of very high, you know, huge amount of money. But then I think it's totally worth it. But the thing is, what makes it very different, very unique for Singapore is that the amount of care, the attention maintenance after the trees have been moved is just amazing. You know, to this day, you know, years after that project, they are still monitoring the trees' health, whether or not any of them are leaning, you know, whether or not they are like showing any distress signs. And underground, they have planned a very intricate system of like wiring and pipes and all that, so that the trees are still growing on soil, you know, not on some artificial ground. So what I'm trying to say is that if any government or any even private sector, if they have set their minds on really carefully and preserving trees wherever they are. If you put in all the effort you have, and funds, and of course knowledge and the right expertise, it can happen. Of course, not many countries can do what Singapore can do in projects where they are, carefully preserving the trees. But at least I think it's an inspiration for other countries to follow. And even though it's not going to happen like that at all in Thailand, but I think maybe in some small ways, if it's possible to, try to change, developers' minds, or instill this love of nature among children. I think it's possible, even though it requires the engineers to get involved, the botanists to get involved, architects to get involved. I think it has to do with willpower, right? If you want to do it, it can be done. So maybe it's a long shot for Thailand, but not completely hopeless, I don't think.
What we take home today, I feel that we as a person need to have the knowledge and the mindset, the right mindset that we can coexist with the nature. And someone has said that the most dangerous thing is to think that the other person will do it. You don't have to do it. The climate change, if other person do it, it's fine. So I think what we can instill today is the conversation is important. So I'm very happy to have all the 4 experts in that field to join us and start this conversation. And from today, we have 10 people who know more about trees and about how weล้อมต้นไม้ is it a good thing or not, now that we know things that we would never think twice about, things that we see all the time. We go to hotel and we see beautiful trees and we thought, oh, good design. So now when we look at trees, we think twice about it. And as part of this exhibition, I would like to also have a tour with Big Tree Foundation. We can invite the people who are interested, ask people to join the Big Tree to walk wherever that you schedule. So that would be some project that we would do to start to spread the understanding of how we could manage the tree from the consumer point of view. So please feel free to stay around for the exhibition. You can talk to any of these experts afterward. We will have drinks and the exhibition start from now. So feel free to look at the art and talk to the artists. Thank you very much everybody for participating today.